Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, it's Jesse with the Common Nerd, bringing you pop culture and all things nerdy through a common sense lens. And man, I'll have to tell you what, I have been a big fan of Doctor Who for a very long time. I love the show. We do a When Who Was Good series on Sunday nights at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time with Mr. Grant Gregory and my other co-host, Sunker Baden. And we have a really good time. We're getting ready to finish off the Capaldi era, and then we're going to go through and enjoy Classic Who. And it's just something that we really know and love, and it's something that's a lot of fun to revisit. Well, one of the things that I don't think a lot of fans are going to be revisiting in the future at any time and point, boys and girls, especially in a situation like what we're doing out there, is Russell T Davies' new era of Doctor Who. Long gone are the eras with David Tennant out there, and of course Christopher Eccleston, where we had such a great time. Those stories were so wonderful, and they just represent such a wonderful golden era of Doctor Who out there. Well, those days have long gone. And as being one of the guys out there that was optimistic about Russell T Davies' return to Doctor Who after a lot of the really bland and bad storytelling we got out of the Chris Chibnall era, I was very, very disappointed in everything that came out. And based on the audience numbers out there and how the viewership has continued to decline, despite whether or not you like the new stories or not, the majority of the audience has very much clearly agreed. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as the Russell T Davies made it very apparent from a lot of the interviews out there, his agenda matters to him more than anything else. He was absolutely going to use Doctor Who to push his own personal political agenda and use it as a way to push his own ideology out there and try to make it palatable to the world out there. Well, obviously that did not work, with the ratings being absolutely abysmal and in the toilet, as we've gone over a million times before. Doctor Who ratings crash again to an all-time low in viewership. Russell T Davies, under his tutelage, back being the showrunner once again with the Disney money, has driven the ratings into a literal 60-year all-time low. That has never been lower ratings in the history of Doctor Who that we can track or measure until the time of Russell T Davies. Yes, boys and girls, even during the days of the early days of Doctor Who, even the population was much smaller over there in the United Kingdom. Numbers have never been this low. Well, boys and girls, we now have a little bit of an ideology and a look into the brainchild behind this absolute worst ratings of all time, because once again, there's an article over here from Big Issue going over Russell T Davies in an interview, talking about some of the stuff he's got going on right now and the projects that he's currently working on for the future, especially considering the fact that Doctor Who is DOA and we will not see it returning anytime soon. Well, guess what? At the exact same time, he gives us a perspective, a view inside of his mind, and it shows you how much of an absolute mental delusion he lives in, where he constantly sees monsters and enemies around every single corner that are trying to take him down constantly, and in turn, people that act just like him. And ladies and gentlemen, this is absolute insanity, but it gives you a viewpoint. It gives you a perspective on the mind that has been completely and totally succumbed to the spirit of the age, that has been possessed by those demonic forces out there, that has decided to use Doctor Who as nothing more than a vehicle for his own personal agenda and his messaging. And damn the torpedoes, boys and girls, he will go down with that sinking ship, because he had no problem burning it right down to the ground and giving us the worst Doctor Who in the history of the series out there, all because his own personal agenda mattered to him more than anything else. And when we get into this article and you understand the insanity that constantly lives inside of his mind, it will not surprise you in any way, shape, or form that he had no problem destroying our beloved IP, Doctor Who, for his own personal agenda. Because, boys and girls, Russell T Davies is absolutely insane, and he lives in a delusional world that I do not think the majority of people, and not even the majority of the gay community, would recognize as being reality in any way, shape, or form. So we're going to get into this article from the Big Issue, check out all the juicy details of exactly what Russell T Davies said, and show you how insane he actually is right now, and of course how delusional and what kind of bubble he really must live in order to think like this. But before we do, if you do enjoy our content, hit that like button, share with all your friends, and subscribe or follow if you have not already, boys and girls, because we are grinding, we are growing. We just crossed 2,100. We're sailing our way towards 22. I think we're sitting at like 2139, and I could not do that without every single one of you. Also, leave us a comment in the section down below. What do you think about all this? What do you think of Russell T Davies' comments? Do you believe his perception of reality and the threats against the gay LGBT gay community out there are actually real? Or do you think he lives in an absolutely delusional bubble and maybe should find out his way out of that and go touch some grass and maybe get off of some other news source besides MSNBC and the BBC? Let us know what you think about it in the comment section down below, because as always, all comments are welcome no matter what side of this argument you fall on. Also, if you'd like to support the channel, please check out the links in the description as well. All right, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, from Big Issue and Adrian Loeb, Russell T Davies. As we face the reform government, the gay community should be revolting in terror. Yes, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, Russell T Davies is calling on the gay community to go into a full-blown revolt. And as his own statements will tell you, he'd like to see a lot of anger out of them. And anybody that's lived in the United States over the last few years and see how some of this anger works out and some of these protests and all of the destruction and devastation that is caused by them, sounds like to me Russell T Davies might be calling for a little unorthodox behavior, maybe a little bit of violence, boys and girls. But then, of course, that is just my humble common nerd speculation, boys and girls. Strictly speculation. We're not making any accusations around here. Now, are we? That's Russell T Davies and the possessed by the spirit of the age insanity that he lives in, because you will not believe you will believe who exactly he thinks is coming after him directly and his opinions on what that person believes about him and his community, boys and girls. Russell T Davies is in his Manchester writing office when Big Issue calls. There's a BAFTA on the shelf behind him alongside hundreds of books. This is where the magic happens, a space away from his home in Wales where he gets to write. A window on the city that has been the setting for so many of his greatest works. We are here officially to talk about cucumber, tofu, and banana. Boy, I wonder what that's going to be about. It's 10 years since Davies launched this audacious, modern, and inclusive trio of shows, much to the fanfare, as one big gay Channel 4 drama series, an anthology of LGBT character studies on E4, and 8 Frank as F documentaries exploring spicy adult content. And this is the funny part about this. As we continue on through this article, you will find out that literally, other than Doctor Who, almost all of the rest of Russell T Davies' writing experience is literally all LGBTQ stuff. Television shows, movies, all of that kind of stuff. It's literally been nothing but LGBT stuff. Now, I would argue that his time as the Doctor Who showrunner showed that he could write beyond that. I would even argue that there's certain aspects of the 60th anniversary anthology, trilogy, whatever it was supposed to be, still to certain parts of that still show that Russell T Davies can set his own personal agenda aside and actually still write good storytelling stuff. But because of his insanity, because of the illusion, because of what you will see that is going on inside of his mind as we carry on in this article, you understand that is no longer possible for him. He cannot separate his agenda from his writing. And literally, that has been the majority of his writing as well. Talks about things that aren't being spoken of as success. He looks on back great delight. The thing that maybe didn't work for the audience is the kind of formatless. It's about life, and that's a very bold move. It makes sense in the last line, talking about all of his gay series out there, talking about his experience with Queer as Folk, how well that worked out for him. I remember, I don't know about any of the rest of his work, but I'd heard about Queer as Folk. I didn't know Russell T Davies was behind it. But I remember I grew up late 90s, early 2000s, whenever it was airing. I remember seeing advertising about it. I remember hearing all the access media folks out there, all the legacy media folks, the Hollywood Reporter, the varieties of the world. Oh, it's great, it's wonderful, it's fabulous, and yada, 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 yada. And literally, he refers to it in this article as all those beautiful men running around having sex. So yeah, there's that as well. Yeah, right here. We knew it wasn't like it was with Queer as Folk. Let's face it, it's all the beautiful young men having sex. Cucumbers are more middle-aged and dark, more nuanced. I'm glad we didn't force that kind of narrative in it. But Cucumber might also be the first show to ever mention the world side in its dialogue. This is where we start to get into the inside of his mind. Now, that's a category on Grindr. The gay audience is resistant to open up. I thought it might prompt a bigger dialogue about physically what we do to each other, but it didn't. Did he expect to be celebrating Cucumber in 2025? It was my idea. I loved the Scene Festival so much last year. The atmosphere, the buzz, the people, I wanted to come back. So I looked at the calendar and I saw that it was 10 years since Cucumber. So they had no choice. I'll be here every year. I'll be looking at archives going, it's 17 years since I wrote a lesbian vicar, and we'll celebrate that. Yay! It's all about celebrating all of his gay works. Yay, 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 yay. What does Davies see as his life work? Does he see all of his queer stuff as his life work? He says, what, am I dying? No, I do. There's my Doctor Who world and my gay world, because that's everything else, really, including a very English scandal and years and years and years. So literally he's admitting that everything outside of Doctor Who he's done has been nothing but to promote his gay agenda. Well, apparently the BBC didn't allow that, or I'd imagine he would have done that back then as well. Back then, though, it was still a family-friendly show that you didn't have to explain a bunch of weird things to your little children out there if you decided to sit down and watch it with the whole family. So he goes on and talks about all of this stuff. He feels like I feel like those characters could bump into each other more or less. There are links. Apparently, all of his gay stuff all links together. Out there, it could all end up working out. And apparently, that includes Doctor Who. Apparently, his Doctor Who stuff lives in the same universe as all of his gay stuff. But it's one of them situations where it's kind of absolutely fascinating to see all this kind of stuff out here. So Cucumber shows a generation as they live through HIV, although it's hardly mentioned. There's a scene in a burger bar at 2 a.m. where you realize where Henry is coming from. The physical shame he carries with him. The social shame for someone who looks so out and proud in one episode. It's a portrait of a modern gay man as they were. Actually, as they are now. Society doesn't move that fast. So maybe he's got a more positive representation of gay people in his show. Maybe because he actually writes as a gay person. But anybody that's watched Sandman season 1 out there or watched, like, I don't know, Californication knows that Hollywood in general doesn't depict homosexual people as anything more than a bunch of rampant, horny people out there that are running around trying to constantly bang each other. I don't know if that's an accurate representation of the gay community. I'm not part of the gay community. I really don't have a lot of people that I constantly interact with in the gay community out there either. So those of you out there in the gay community, let me know in the comment section down below if that is an accurate representation or Hollywood is giving it an extremely exaggerated version of how you are. Because that's what Hollywood thinks of you. And apparently, to some degrees, that's how Russell T Davies thinks of you as well. So let me know if that's the whole gay community or if it's just Russell and a lot of his weirdos. Speaking of what Russell and the rest of his weirdos think about it as well. Society, boys and girls, if you didn't know, it's changing. Well, yeah, I think that's kind of the point and a lot of the pushback that's been happening. But that pushback, of course, isn't because they're trying to expose, all this LGBT nonsense to children out there. It's not because they're trying to brainwash your kids. It's not because they're trying to trans your kids. It's not because, taxation and the economy have gotten absolutely insane, or it doesn't have anything to do with the fact that that our countries, the United Kingdom included, have been completely and totally overrun by a bunch of illegal people that have no desire to actually become part of our culture. No, boys and girls. The priority, according to Russell T Davies and his own personal delusions, is to take out gay people. But society is changing, and Davies is worried. So worried, he decamped to Manchester to write about it with a real sense of urgency and mission. And apparently he was so worried about it as well that he completely and totally tried to destroy the 60-year legacy of Doctor Who all in a couple of seasons. And he's done a really good job of it. We thought Chibnall drove the show into the ground. Boy, Russell T Davies said, hold my dong-dong and watch this, boys and girls, because holy cow. Literally no one asked for tiptoes. I was technically busy on Doctor Who. Oh, technically you were, huh? So how much involvement did you actually have? Makes you wonder how much involvement he actually had during the golden age of Doctor Who, too. But I was driven to the desk. I had to write it in Manchester, and I would have written it for free. It just had to be written. Oh, it just that gay story just had to be written, boys and girls. He could not stop himself. There was things going on in the world that said it had to be written. It was funny. When Queer as Folk came out in 1999, if you'd said it would be gay rights, be like in 2025, we'd have said, oh, it'll all be marvelous. It'll be sunshine, skipping down the street, hand in hand, gays, queers, lesbians, everyone. And look at where we are. Things got better. Well, yeah. Can anybody explain to me, honestly, outside of gay marriage, what rights gays didn't have in the last 20 to 30 and even arguably 40 years? Was there discrimination in jobs and in hiring practices? Yes, probably. Has there always been discrimination in those things in one form or another? Yes. If you have a bunch of tattoos and piercings, hey, I guess what to tell you. You're going to be discriminated at in a lot of jobs because they don't want the front-facing version of their company to look like a monster out of a horror movie, okay? There probably was some organizations that didn't necessarily feel okay with having gay people working in them, whether it be around children or whether it be because maybe they were a Christian organization that wanted to push biblical values and traditional values. Maybe having a gay person as their front and center face probably wouldn't have worked out very well. Or there's some people out there that were just jerks, sure, but I hate to tell you, that's the reality of the world. This side of Eden, there's always going to be jerks out there. There are always people that are going to treat you crap for no reason other than the fact that you exist. Welcome to being an adult. high. But now, things are rapidly and urgently getting worse. What happens in America always happens here. Well, considering what I've been seeing going on in the United Kingdom, let's all pray to God that's the case. Because right now, you can't walk down the street of London without literally getting stabbed by somebody who's probably speaking an Arabic language somewhere from the Middle East. Let's just all be completely brutally honest, shall we? Do we need to talk about all of the roving gangs they're having in over there? Yeah, not so much. Unlike when what's happening in the United States, we're actually, purging all of those people from our country, removing all of those dangerous folks that are like causing all kinds of chaos on our streets. Yeah, so I think probably the majority of actual citizens of the United Kingdom, the people that were born and raised there, or that actually became citizens because they love that country and wanted to be part of it, they might actually all agree with, they all actually agree with that happening. But of course, what do I know? I'm just some idiot American who doesn't know anything about how Russell T Davies feels about things, mostly because I can't stick my head that far up my butt to be that self-absorbed with where my genitalia go and how that community defines my entire existence in the world, and apparently all of my working stuff as well. What happens in America always happens here. And as we look down the barrel of a reform government, oh, the horror. Yeah, that reform government. I know they're going to make some major changes over there in Britain if they actually get elected, aren't they? Yeah, just like that whole Conservative Party's done such a good banger-up job out there. By the way, how's the Labour Party doing at looking after farmers over there in the United Kingdom? Almost makes me think like the names of your parties over there don't actually mean what they actually are supposed to mean anymore. But hey, what am I know? I'm just some stupid American looking from the outside in after all. Oh, let's see where we go here. We, the gay community, queer community, and should be revolting in terror and anger and action. Oh, you mean like the terror and the anger and the action we saw during the fiery but mostly peaceful riots of protests of 2020? Or how about all of the kumbaya and wonderful stuff that happened at Chaz, the Capitol Hill occupied zone over there in Seattle? Or how about all of the wonderful peace-loving and hippie stuff that goes on the streets of Los Angeles and San Francisco every day with the defecation and the drug use? You mean those kind of actions? That kind of anger? Those things, Russell T Davies? Because me thinks, and maybe it's just me, but some people might out there interpret that as a call to violence. Russell, is that what you're doing, buddy? I'm just speculating here. You guys let me know what you think about that in the comments section down below. And also, if you are for some reason part of the gay community and have made it this far into the video and haven't turned me off or just left me a nasty comment down below, do you feel like this as a gay person in your community? Does Russell T Davies speak for all of you or even a majority of you? Or is it just a slim portion of your overall common sense community that honestly, at the end of the day, you just want to be left the F alone? And as a person who wants the same, I can understand and respect that. But let me know, do you feel terrified? Do you feel like you need to be out in the streets, marching in anger, maybe setting a few things on fire and trashing some cars? Do you feel like you're under that much threat? Let me know. Let me know. If It's a Sin was a timely reminder of the courage and activism shown by previous generations, Davies is looking for a return to that spirit. Pride as a protest more than a party. Oh, wow. How have them left-leaning protests been going over the last few years? How'd that work out for that security guard that was just trying to protect the pawn shop that he worked for? How'd that work out? How'd that work out? We need the anger of the past. They're out to get us. Oh, are they? Who's out to get you? Tell me something, Russell T Davies. Is Donald Trump in the room with you right now? Is he hiding under your bed? Oh, yes, that's right. Donald Trump's the problem, boys and girls. The first American president to ever be elected into office openly supporting gay marriage, right? Something you can't say for Clinton. Something you can't say for Obama. But Trump's the enemy to the gay community, boys and girls. You make sure you listen to everything and believe it all that the BBC and the MSNBC shove down your throat and up your rear end. Make sure you believe it all, because clearly Russell T Davies does. Do you think Russell T Davies even knows that Donald Trump supports gay marriage? That he's perfectly okay with it? Do you even think he knows that? Because I guarantee you the BBC and MSNBC have never told him that. Do you know that? If you're a gay person watching this video, do you know that? And it's funny too, because knowing all the effort that I'm putting into this and talking to all of you guys out there, hoping for some response in the community out there, this video will probably get no traction whatsoever, because telling the truth normally gets buried out there on social media, boys and girls. Make sure you support your alternatives. This is terrifying. This is terrifying. It's absolutely terrifying. They're out to get us. The president of the United States is literally out to get us, is discounting us. The guy who supports gay marriage. Okay. He would be happier with us invisible and gone, defunded, completely invisible, if not biologically altered to become as straight as him. That's right. Boys and girls, President Donald Trump, according to Russell T Davies' insanity and his little bubble he lives in, right? The bubble that he lives in, his echo chamber. According to Russell T Davies' insanity and echo chamber, President Donald J. Trump advocates for the medical, chemical, and pharmaceutical alteration of gay people out there. Now, I don't know about you, but for one, I voted for Trump. I'll admit that. And two, I went over quite a lot of his agenda. And although I didn't agree with all of it, I certainly did not see that on the list. Now, where we do see that list, those kind of things, is in the realm of the conspiracy world, the actual conspiracy world, much like the QAnon stuff. And now with what the Agenda 2025 or 2024 or whatever it was, I don't know. I consider myself a libertarian, leaning slightly conservative. I've never read any of that bunk, just like I never believed any of the bunk coming out of the other guy. Back with all of that kind of crazy stuff, the QAnon nonsense. Why? Because I'm a common sense, reasonable person, and I understand that stuff is just internet insanity, and most likely funded by the other party in order to spread the kind of fear and insanity that it has done inside of Russell T Davies. I guarantee you, if we were able to track the funding behind these organizations, that's where it would lead to. I would almost put dollars to donuts on that one, boys and girls. Don't believe me? Prove me wrong. But needless to say, that's exactly what Russell T Davies believes. That's exactly what Russell T Davies believes. That is terrifying, because he's the leader of the free world, as we call it. I think we've got a kind of imaginary countdown to when he's going to have the great big heart attack. Oh, so they're literally all wishing for the president of the United States' death. Literally. And according to Russell T Davies, all of you gay people are wishing that, because apparently he speaks for all of you. And the bastard might not. What's more, we should fear the people who will step in once he's gone. All those invisible, powerful people who suddenly have a voice. They could be even worse. That's right. Tell me something, Russell T Davies. Are these invisible people in the room with you right now? Do you see them? Are they talking to you? Are they telling you to set things on fire? Because it certainly sounds like that. It's scary. How much should we underestimate them? Well, I know you're talking about it like a completely and totally fictional them, but the actual them that the media has convinced you to believe them in is people like me and people like Donald Trump. And yes, the media, the devil himself, and all of the rest of the masters that pull the puppet that is strings that is Russell T Davies. Yes, you did all underestimate us. You thought there was no remnant left. You thought the remnant wasn't as big and as powerful and as common sense and widespread as what you actually thought it was. And yes, you are now finding. And if Russell T Davies, you're acting as an avatar for Lucifer himself, well, you should be terrified, because guess what? God's not as dead as what you thought he was. And yes, Lucifer, you didn't convince as many people as you thought that you weren't real and you weren't active. But I digress. Bible study, Sundays, 2 p.m., boys and girls. Oh my gosh, those invisible people. It's scary. How much do we underestimate them? A lot. We thought they spent the past 5 years self-flagellating. No, they planned. Can you see the left planning now in America? Absolutely no sign of it. They should have their next candidate president ready. They should be making speeches right now. Where are they? Well, what the Democratic Party in the United States of America and what the woke cult, the spirit of the age, whatever you want to call it, has found out is that, guess what? The majority of Western civilization doesn't agree with them and doesn't agree with you, Russell T Davies. And now you're finding out what actually happens when you decide to target people's children. When common sense folk like me, who are willing for the most part to live and let live. I didn't agree with marriage being defined involving gay people out there. I still don't agree with it. And I honestly do hope that the Supreme Court does overturn it, because it shouldn't have been the court's decision to begin with. It should be a state-by-state decision under our own constitutional system of government in the United States. But even if that was, even besides that, you didn't see me out there running to join protests advocating for it to be overturned. If it does get overturned, I'm happy with that. It is a decision. It should be left up to the states. But at the end of the day, the majority of Republicans, the majority of conservatives, the majority of common sense folks out there, and it turns out the majority of America, guess what? Guess what, Russell T Davies? Despite what BBC has told you, despite the lies that you have been fed about all of the evil folks out there in the world that voted for Donald Trump, the majority of people don't give a crap. And the majority of people would have been perfectly happy with the status quo. But the problem is you pushed too far. The activists that claim to represent your community out there pushed too far. They targeted children, and they targeted our schools. They targeted kindergartens and daycares and public libraries. And well, guess what? At that point, sorry, turns out, yes, the slippery slope was very much real, and we got too far down that slope, and you've woken up a lot of people. And now you're going to lose for it. And I have no idea how far this thing goes. But at the end of the day, you've done this to yourself. Your community and the people that claim to speak for you, the advocates out there, have pushed this, and they will cause a backlash. And I have no idea how far it's going to go. But at the end of the day, your community and people like you advocating for this kind of stuff and doing the damage you have done to Doctor Who and transforming it into an LGBTQ propaganda machine, you've caused this backlash, Russell T Davies. You and people like you have done this to yourselves. So I hope you are kind of scared, because you are going to lose this culture war. That has already been decided. Now we're just waiting to see how far the fallout goes. And I hope it's really, really far. I really, really hope it's really, really, really far. The whole world is keeping us all awake. Like I said, he apparently speaks for all of you out there. We're overwhelmed with big issues. Extraordinary times are coming. And I love sitting and watching all the TikToks and AI videos and soft, handsome image of gay people online with kissing and beauty. But I watch all these people and I'm thinking, I hope they're prepared to fight. The younger generation that has no idea how they got here, and neither should they. No, they're busy their lives. I spent my youth looking back at I didn't spend my youth looking back at World War II, but I do think, are you prepared to fight? Because the fight is coming. That's right, boys and girls. And he doesn't believe Doctor Who is his legacy, but that's okay. We'll define his legacy. And he even once again denies the inevitable question, what's going on with Doctor Who? He said, behave, ignoring the question. Because at the end of the day, Russell T Davies has decided what his legacy will be. And it's not Doctor Who. It's not being the showrunner who returned Doctor Who to form and made it what it was, made it the international success that it became, getting an American audience interested in a show that they really weren't all that interested in, but made it a hit even in the United States. No, Russell T Davies doesn't care about that. He doesn't care about Doctor Who. And I'd imagine really, truly, the only reason he ever took the Doctor Who job was for a paycheck, obviously, especially with all of them big Disney bucks involved. And also because he wanted to use it as a vehicle to push his agenda. And the insight we have gotten into his mind with this big issue article in this interview makes that very apparent. Russell T Davies never gave a crap about Doctor Who. He gave a crap about using it as a vehicle to push his agenda. Because in Russell T Davies' mind, the whole world is out to get him. Anybody that doesn't agree to allow men into women's restrooms, anybody that doesn't agree with allowing LGBTQ propaganda inside of their children's entertainment and inside of Doctor Who, well, guess what? You're evil. You're out to get him. And as far as he's concerned, the entire LGBTQ community, which apparently he, according to his own mind, speaks for all of you, he represents all of you out there, should revolt. You should take arms. You should take to the streets. You should start smashing windows and setting things on fire, because that's what we've seen from the left protests, from the angry protests over the last few years. Fiery, but mostly peaceful protests, according to the legacy media. And I'm sure Russell T Davies believed every single bit of it, because clearly he does. He clearly doesn't understand, realize, or care to look past the agenda that is spoon-fed for him, the talking points that are spoon-fed for him. Once again, another example of the fact that Nickelback was right. The list of today's who's who, the latest dictionary, and a list of today's who's who. Because now Donald Trump doesn't equal out a man who has been openly in support of gay marriage the entire time he's been running for political office. No, he represents some kind of boogeyman that hides in every corner of Russell T Davies' mind and life, who is out there to try to destroy him, devastate him, and literally chemically try to change him with prescription medicine. The fact that all of that is what he openly spouts, that he believes is the truth, it just shows you how far the insanity has gone inside of these people. And this was a man who was controlling the direction of Doctor Who for 2 years in recent memory, boys and girls. This is a peek inside the insanity of these people and what they really think and what they really believe. And I don't know if there's any gay people still left watching this episode, watching this video. But if you are, is this the insanity? Is this the world you live in? Or are you a little more common sense like the rest of us who have an issue with this LGBTQ propaganda being shoved into every single aspect of this? But boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, for all of you out there that lie and believe that Doctor Who was always gay, or that believed that Russell T Davies was perfectly justifiable doing all of this and that it was just about making good Doctor Who, well, you're a liar. And so was Russell T Davies. It was never about making good Doctor Who. It was about using it as a vehicle to push his agenda. And guess what? The pushback is coming, and your woke agenda is dying. The spirit of the age is getting scourged and burned and, shall we say, exorcised from a lot of polite society and a lot of our culture. And Russell T Davies, whatever kind of backlash or damage you might see that being done to your community, just realize and understand, at the end of the day, it's your fault. You did it to yourself. You've danced with the devil, and now you've gotten burned. And guess what? It's exactly what you deserve, Russell T Davies. And at the end of the day, it might be exactly what your community deserves as a whole. After all, silence is violence, and you've allowed Russell T Davies to be the voice of the entire LGBTQ alphabet soup mafia community. Does he speak for you? A big shout out to all of our subscribers and members out there. Thanks for watching, and make sure you guys like and subscribe if you have not already.